Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Today, I'd like to explore a hypothetical historical question that arose from my interest in collecting and studying small arms from the early breech-loading era. Specifically, how might the American Civil War have been affected if it had begun roughly 10 years later, around 1871, during a period of rapid technological transition in military firearms? The American Civil War took place from 1861 to 1865 and coincided with the closing phase of widespread muzzle-loading firearm use. Although experimental and limited issue breech-loading and repeating arms existed during the war, most standard issue infantry weapons remained percussion cap muzzleloaders. In the decade following the war, however, many nations began adopting breech-loading rifles as standard service arms. Countries such as France, Britain, Switzerland, Italy, and the United States transitioned to these systems during the late 1860s and early 1870s. While other nations received similar arms through foreign purchases or aid, this period marked a clear shift to infantry firepower and battlefield capability. For the purpose of this hypothetical scenario, let us imagine that the political crisis that led to secession and the Civil War was delayed until approximately 1871 or 1872, as there is an election around that time. While the political circumstances of such a delay are complex and beyond the scope of this discussion, the focus here will remain on how developments in small arms might have influenced military strategy and the overall conduct of the war. During the actual Civil War, standard infantry weapons include firearms such as the 1861 Springfield and 1853 Enfield, both muzzle-loading rifles capable of firing approximately 2 to 4 rounds per minute under combat conditions. Although repeating and early breech-loading weapons such as the Henry rifle, Spencer carbine, and Gatling gun saw limited use, they were not widely issued and were often privately purchased or used in specialized roles. Despite their limited numbers, these arms demonstrate the significant tactical advantage of higher rates of fire. By the early 1870s, the United States had already begun transitioning toward breech-loading rifles. The Model 1866 Springfield represented an early step in this direction, followed by the more widely used Model 1873 trapdoor rifle. These weapons allowed for faster, more reliable loading and could achieve rates of fire several times greater than the muzzle-loading arms. Had a major conflict appeared imminent during this period, it is reasonable to assume that production and distribution of such rifles would have been accelerated. Additionally, both sides might have sought foreign weapons, including breech-loading rifles such as the British Snider Enfield, the French Chassepot, or the Swiss Vetterli. As in the historical conflict, a Union naval blockade would have played a major role. Such a blockade would have limited the opposing side's access to foreign arms and supplies, potentially creating disparities in the availability of modern weapons as the war progressed. While blockade running would have still occurred, and may have succeeded in bringing in some more advanced firearms, the overall imbalance in industrial capacity and logistics would have likely persisted, as it did in the real Civil War. In terms of strategy and duration, the widespread issue of breech-loading or repeating rifles could have significantly altered the course of the war. Initially, traditional tactics carried over from earlier conflicts might have resulted in substantially higher casualties due to increased rate of fire. Over time, though, military leaders will have likely adapted by emphasizing more cautious maneuvering, field fortifications, and selective engagement. Conflicts of this general era, such as the Austro-Prussian War, the Franco-Prussian War, and the Boshin War, were often decided relatively quickly through decisive engagements and the capture of key political or industrial centers. A delayed American Civil War might similarly have concluded more rapidly due to the destructive efficiency of modern weapons. Conversely, it is also possible that both sides would have avoided large-scale engagements after early losses, resulting in an even longer, more strategically restrained conflict. Ultimately, the outcome would have depended on how quickly each side adapted to new technology and how effectively resources could be mobilized. A shorter conflict might have produced less predictable results, while a prolonged war would have favored the North, which had greater industrial and logistical capacity. In conclusion, had the American Civil War begun a decade later, advancements in small arms technology would have almost certainly had a profound impact. breech-loading rifles capable of firing much higher rates, possibly 12 to 16 rounds a minute versus the 2 to 4 rounds a minute of the muzzle loaders, would have replaced them as standard infantry weapons, leading to a change in tactics, increased casualty rates, and strategic decision-making. This hypothetical scenario highlights how closely military outcomes are tied to technological context, how even small shifts in timing can significantly alter the course of historical events. More broadly, it serves as a reminder that many major historical developments, whether conflicts, pandemics, or economic crises, are deeply shaped by the technologies available at the time. Considering how events might have unfolded differently under altered circumstances can offer valuable insight into both the past and the present. If you'd like to see more historical discussions and analysis, please like and subscribe. Thank you.